We have the Mizuna anniversary coming up the week of the March 24th, and we're going to be doing a bunch of throwbacks. Throwback dishes. We're doing a big celebration that week. Even though this isn't a throwback dish, the lobster mac and cheese is one of maybe 2 items that have been on our menu for 20 years. And what makes our lobster mac and cheese so great is that it's not like other people's mac and cheese with a bunch of cheese and it's baked. It's really about this guy, Larry the Lobster, fresh lobster. So the way we cook our lobsters here at Mizuna and Luca and even at Milk Market for our lobster rolls is we cook them separately. We cook the claws and the tail separately. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put Larry the Lobster out of his misery. So we go with our knife right through its skull, and that pretty much kills the lobster. Then we want to take our tail and break our tail off, and then take our claws, and I'm going to put those in a separate container. Now, the body, this is the roe. You're not technically supposed to eat that anymore, but we use these shells. If I cook this whole lobster together, the tail cooks before the knuckles and the claw, because this shell is substantially harder than this shell. You can see this shell. Wow, Larry's got some fight in him. But this shell is so thin in here, so the meat will cook a lot quicker. And the worst thing about lobster is overcooked lobster. So the way we're doing it for the lobster mac and cheese or the lobster fried Diablo at Luca is we want this lobster just barely cooked, like medium rare. And the easiest way to achieve that is to cook the tail for 6 minutes and the claw for 8 minutes. Let's pour the water over and start our clock. So all I have is just some very lightly salted water, and I'm just gonna pour it over to cover. And while that's sitting, what Jerry, who cleans about 25 lobsters a day, does is he finishes, after he does that, he takes the outside shell off, and then we're just left with this part of the lobster, and this is what has all the flavor. We remove the gills, this is their lungs, and you take those off because when you make stock, they can be bitter. And you take that off, and then this has all the flavor of the lobster in it. This part is okay to use. You'll clean it out, clean everything out of there. And then this is what we would use for stock. So if you were gonna make lobster bisque, this is all you need, and this has a ton of flavor. There's still little bits of meat in here that add a lot of flavor, and then you puree the shells when you're making your lobster stock. So really, we're just letting it cook, and just you can see just how quickly this is starting to change color, which is perfect.
A few moments later.
All right, so we're back. I've got the lobsters just poaching in the hot water, and I just want to talk about the week of March 24th. So that's our 20-year anniversary. Probably going to hear a lot about that from me on social, but we're really excited, and this is one of the dishes we're going to be doing is our lobster mac and cheese. It's one of the only dishes, as I said earlier, that's been on our menu since day one. It is still one of the most popular appetizers we have. We actually put a whole lobster on the mac and cheese, and we cut the noodles back by about more than 3/4. So we're really excited. If you want to make reservations and try and come and try our tasting menu for that weekend, just go to Talk Denver and look Mizuna up, or call the restaurant, mizunadenver.com. Our timer is going off, so it's been 6 minutes. So I'm going to take my tail out, and I'm going to just plunge that into ice water to stop the cooking. You can just take a pair, any kitchen scissors work, hold this open, and you just can run a pair of scissors right down it. I like to give it a crack like that just to separate the meat out. Be careful when you're doing this because these are really sharp. There's some really sharp pincers in there and they'll cut your hands. But if you do it properly, the tail just comes right out. This isn't cooked all the way through. I mean, it's like a perfect medium rare. It's still nice and soft. It's not gonna be rubbery and tough. And so many people are so used to eating lobster that's rubbery and tough that you get at those no-name steak places that are frozen lobster tails that have been killed under a broiler. This is the way lobster is meant to be. This is the pain in the neck. So, I don't know why. This is so succulent. Everyone loves the lobster tail. My favorite part of the lobster happens to be the claw. So, to clean a claw, crack like that, and when you pull it out, you know you've cooked it perfectly when the piece of cartilage comes right out with it. If this doesn't pop right out, then your lobster's not cooked enough. So that's part of the reason you want to. If you ever to look at a lobster claw when you cut it out, if it hasn't been cooked at all, it is just mush, it's gelatin. The easiest way for me to do this is with a sharp knife, and just to kind of, you want to try not to go all the way through, so I just went through, cracked, and then you run your finger behind, and I have the whole perfect claw. And you can see how flimsy this is. It's still beautiful red. It's cooked. It's not cooked all the way. Usually when you get a lobster claw and it's that really hard, almost styrofoamy texture, that would be why you don't love lobster claw. But to me, that is the sweetest, best piece of the lobster is that little front claw. Now for the knuckle, if you're rich, you can just afford to throw this away. But there is a ton of great meat in this. You can use a little hammer to get this out. I usually just use the back of my knife. And you're kind of just smashing, just to loosen the meat. And then you're kind of breaking it up. And be very, these are really sharp, so if your hands are a little bit soft, be very careful. And then you just want to, since I've cracked it, I'm just going to unpeel. Kind of squeeze. And then take my knuckle meat out. And to me, this is one of my favorite pieces of the lobster. Super sweet. Do the same thing. I got part of the cartilage, so that just means I'm gonna have to fish in and get it. But I know the cartilage is gonna come out pretty easily because I can see this is cooked about the same. This was a little bit thicker, so it could have probably cooked for a minute or two more, but it's just a twisting of the knife when you do it. I need to get that cartilage out because that's not real fun to chew on. But I still end up with a beautiful piece, and this is a good description to show you how, see how translucent it is. It's vibrant, but it's all together, still soft. And once again,
I'm just gonna eat the whole thing.
I probably will eat this whole lobster. But salty, briny, like so delicious. So when lobster is cooked really well, there's a beauty to it. And then I do want to put it in this ice water. And I don't want to like soak it in there, like just, because you'll start to lose some of the brininess of it if you let it sit for too long in the ice water. So this tail is nice and cold. That claw is pretty cold. So let's get these out because I don't want to lose that flavor of that sea. So dry it off. Still nice and salty. And then we'll do the same thing with our claw. If you have some like dish gloves at home, it might be good to wear those when you're doing the claws so that you don't, my hands are pretty good, but perfect knuckle meat, and we should probably make sure that this is okay too.
No, taste test.
So good. Like, you may not even get to make what you were making when you clean a lobster like this, because you probably eat it all, so maybe buy extra lobsters. So that's how we cook and break down a lobster here at Mizuno or any of the Bonanno restaurants, and we're super excited to see you for the week of March 24th for our anniversary. Thank you so much.